It's the most powerful loan, in my opinion, in the world. And only a select few people in the world get to use this loan.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association, providing benefits and services to real estate investors and rental property owners for over 48 years. With your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group.
This episode is sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com. Hello and welcome to episode 198. For many of our active duty military service members, investing in real estate may seem like a far-off objective, especially because they're either deployed overseas or moving from place to place without any sense of permanence. However, if you are active duty military or you're a veteran, you do have some serious purchasing power that you may not even be aware of. Eric Upchurch has made it his mission to help those in the military understand and realize the power of creating monthly passive income through real estate, even while you may be active duty. Eric served 6 years in the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, and he's the author of Military House Hacking: How to Live for Free, Earn Passive Income, and Create Generational Wealth. He also has a podcast called the Active Duty Passive Income Podcast, and I'm honored to have him on the show today. Eric, thanks for being here.
I am glad to be here. Honored.
Why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself? I'm really interested to hear about a little bit about your military background and how you got started investing in real estate as well.
Yeah, sure. We'll start there. I actually chose to enlist in the military after college. So after college, you could be technically an officer or an enlisted member, and I chose to go the enlisted route for two reasons. One, it paid off all of my college debt, and two, it allowed me to influence. I was 24 when I enlisted, and it allowed me to influence younger enlisted members. And I knew that I was all my life growing up in the Midwest, I'd always been an influencer of people and a team leader. And working in the cornfields of Iowa at 12 years old, I knew that I wanted to be a team leader and some other stuff. So I think I was drawn to the military, and I knew I was drawn to influencing and helping other people grow in their mission and passion in life. And so I was fortunate in that I found the military because it provided a really solid platform for me to go out and make a difference in younger service members' lives. So, and now, thankfully, to a point where me and our team, we have this amazing platform, this education platform, Active Duty Passive Income, where our mission is it's financial freedom for those who serve, and primarily through real estate investing. And there's some unique things that we talk about and that we show and educate military service members, past and present, through our book and through some other outlets. So,
tell us a little bit about your portfolio. What kind of real estate investing are you doing?
I have been in multifamily real estate investing for about 18 months is all right now, which sounds like a short amount of time, but we have an amazing team. I have amazing mentors. I pay for coaching, and I will actually never not pay for coaching. And you and I run in one of the same boardrooms and some of the same crowds. So you know what I mean. It's you need to be constantly pushing forward and growing and making new connections and learning. So my portfolio right now, I have collectively 217 doors. I'm a limited partner first in 575 doors.
So explain what does that mean? You're a limited partner.
So I started kind of in the single family world. And a lot of military members, if you're listening and you have PCS or permanent change of station, when you move from one spot to the next and you bought a house with a VA loan at your previous duty station, then you move, you get orders to go to a new place and you end up with a rental. That's how a lot of military members end up getting into real estate. And that's how I got into real estate. I found myself as a landlord one day. I couldn't sell. I bought the house in 2006 and I ETS or ended my time in service in 2011. So in 2011, I was like, well, I can't sell this house right now. I have no equity. It was 100% LTV when I bought it because it was the VA loan with no money down. And so I just said, okay.
When you say 100% LTV,
yes,
meaning if it was worth 100,000, you got a loan for 100,000.
Exactly.
For that.
I'll run you through. I bought it for 150,000. I even rolled in the VA loan funding fee, which at the time was I think 2%. If you don't have there's a funding fee associated with it, which you don't have to pay if you have a disability after you get out. But so anyway, I rolled in the closing costs, I rolled in the funding fee, and I got 100% financing. And there's no primary mortgage insurance, there's no PMI. So
and let me just ask you, why were you able to get that type of loan?
The VA loan, that is the power of the VA loan. You still have to qualify for the loan. You still have to show your debt to income ratio is going to support it. But in the military, you're getting basic allowance for housing, so if you move off post, once you hit a certain rank or you get married and have kids, you can move out of, off the base. And so a lot of people will buy a house. And as long as you can make that payment and show that you can make that payment, you'll qualify for a VA loan with no money down, no PMI.
And the VA loan is specific to veterans and active duty military. Is that the case?
That's correct. That is a benefit that you receive for the rest of your life, and it is typically one use at a time. There are caveats to that. Because if you move from one duty station to another, or if you ETS, you get out of the military and you move. Like for me, I was stationed in Georgia, and I moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area where my wife was from when I got out. So there are about 60, and don't quote me on this, but about 66 counties in the country where the cost of living is so high or so much higher than a military area that you may have purchased and used your VA loan. They will actually allow you to get a second VA loan simultaneously, which is what I was able to do in California when I moved out. So typically you're only allowed to use one at a time, but you get that benefit for the rest of your life once you serve.
Is the VA loan one of the best types of residential loans that anyone can get? And how powerful is it to have a VA loan and have that option?
I'm glad you asked that question because it is the most powerful. It's the most powerful loan, in my opinion, in the world. And only a select few people in the world get to use this loan. Let me give you an example of why. And we talk about this in our book, Military House Hacking, which is free on our website. You can get the digital copy for free. So what we talk about in that book is, I'll just kind of generalize the main theme. As you move from one duty station to another duty station in a 20-year career, let's say every 2 years you're moving. What you can do is buy, and this is an amazing thing, listen to this, you can buy a fourplex between a 1 unit to a 4 unit. So imagine being a sergeant in the Army, and you go and you qualify for a fourplex with no money out of pocket, you have no PMI, you have 3 tenants. So this is an owner-occupied loan. You can't be an investor and go buy a fourplex and not live in it. It's an owner-occupied loan. So either you and your family have to be willing to go and move into this apartment complex or this fourplex, or you yourself if you're single or whatever. But so imagine the power of that. You live in one and you're cash flowing the other 3 units. So at least you're living for free. You may even end up with some extra cash flow. And if that's the case, you can plug that down towards your principal. And remember, you're 100% leveraged here. You have 100% loan to value if you choose. So you have no money in this fourplex, and you can pay down that principal with residual cash flows. And maybe that comes from other places too. Maybe you have a side hustle or a second job or whatever, or just you take your income from the military and plunk it down on your principal. As soon as you're down to maybe 80 or 85% loan to value, you can refinance that property to a conventional loan, and then you can move and go buy another fourplex for no money out of pocket again. Then you have a cash flowing fourplex that you have no money in, and you just went out and bought another one. Now, this isn't an investor loan. I have to emphasize that. So we're not abusing this loan. It is literally you are moving into this unit, and it's a fourplex or threeplex or a triplex or a duplex, or you can even house hack rooms in a single family. So it works on all of those sizes. But imagine the power of that. buying these as you move, as you're getting orders from military installation from one to the other, and you're smart enough and you have the wherewithal and knowledge to buy a single duplex, triplex, or quad with no money, and you're cash flowing it as you move from one place to the next and just rinsing and repeating at every duty station. And that's what our book talks about, and that's what we're teaching.
I love that, because I always say house hacking is probably the best way for people to get started investing in real estate. But if you're a veteran or a military member, you have so much more buying power because of that VA loan structure.
Right.
Are you saying you can only have one VA loan at a time?
Yeah. So kind of as I was trying to say earlier, you can really only have, traditionally, you can only have one VA loan at a time because it's not an investor loan. But if you still have a VA loan, on a property and you get out and you move to a more expensive area, you will be like the San Francisco Bay Area, for instance. The cap on the VA loan was almost $700,000 that they would finance with no money out of pocket. Traditionally, everywhere else in the country, it's like under 500. So if you go to somewhere else, if you move somewhere else that's more expensive, there are circumstances. I've had 2 simultaneous VA loans, so it is possible.
If you are thinking of leaving your W-2 job and becoming a full-time real estate investor, one of the greatest costs you must consider is healthcare for you and your family. When I made this transition 5 years ago, I found the whole healthcare insurance process to be confusing and frustrating. That's why I'm glad I met Chad Creasy at RCB and Associates. Chad is a professional healthcare insurance agent who helps real estate investors and small business owners understand and choose their best healthcare options. And best of all, his services are covered by the insurance company and won't cost you a dime. If you are expecting a change in your healthcare insurance coverage for any reason, or losing employer coverage or transitioning into Medicare, then you owe it to yourself to contact Chad Creasy at rcbassociatesllc.com. So Eric, tell us then how you've applied this to your investing.
Yeah. So the great thing about house hacking is there are so many, and you talk about this on your podcast, there's so many different ways that you can house hack, whether it's recognizing that you have an area on the back part of your property that you could put in a storage unit, or something from Home Depot. Even you could go and then rent out little cubes to people, and that's technically house hacking, right? There's solar hacking, there's renting out your garage, there's renting out rooms to friends, there's buying fourplexes and cash flowing 3 other units with a VA loan. So there's so many different ways that you can do this. And when I started learning so I wish there was an active duty passive income team and community network teaching me these things. And that's what we're hearing from our community as well. But all I had when I got out of the military, I moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area, and I thought, how am I like a Midwest kid with a, regular upbringing and then served in the military? How am I supposed to go back to the Bay Area and buy the cheapest thing I could find was $500,000, and it was a duet, essentially a townhouse, like a duplex, right? But only one side, sold separately, right? Mm-hmm. So I moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area. I used the VA loan. I could barely, with my W-2 job, I could barely afford that $500,000 mortgage payment. And 2 years later, and so this was pretty amazing. And at that time, I was educating myself also. I was going to seminars, and I was, paying for coaching, and didn't really know what I was doing, but I was trying to invest in all these different little kind of pockets. But what I realized is that my house went from $500,000 to $690,000. And I started seeing houses around me selling, and I asked my wife, I was like, should we try that? Do you want to move? I mean, we could, this is a substantial amount of capital. So my version of house hacking was really live-in flipping. So we chose to go then, after we sold that property, we went to a little town near Santa Cruz, California, on the beach. We bought a house that's a couple blocks from the ocean. Again, stretching my finances to do this, by the way. This was a risk that my wife and I were willing to take, because we felt like, well, we're living in it and we could barely afford the payment, so let's just try it. So we bought this house a couple blocks from the beach, and we actually forced appreciation. So the first one was market appreciation. Second one, we actually did some demolition, and a guy that I met through a conference helped renovate it. He was a custom home builder, and he helped me renovate it. And it went up in value by $250,000 in 9 months. because of the work we did on it.
Wow.
So again, my wife and I looked at each other like, well, this is a nice area. It's 2 blocks from the beach, but we're not ready to retire yet, so we don't need to be in this little, retirement community. So, so then we did it again. We did it one more time in the East Bay, in a really nice community there. And so that was kind of I like to call it, everyone has a capital building phase, right? Where you're trying to figure out if you have no money. I mean, I have friends with no money and they're like, Eric, what do I do? Well, you can wholesale, right? You can bird dog. There's so many different things you can do to get your feet wet. And my version of the capital building phase or my version of the house hack was my capital building phase.
Yeah, that's great. So only in an upward market like California can you realize that kind of appreciation. Because I saw that same type of appreciation happening back between 2000 and 2006 in California.
Right.
Of course, it went the other way after 2007, 2008. But that's pretty extraordinary, the type of profit you were making in such a short period of time.
It is, and I never knowing what I know about this industry now, we never ever invest for appreciation. It's a great benefit when it happens, but obviously, most of your audience probably knows that you can't count on appreciation where we are in the cycle or where we are in any cycle. It doesn't matter where you are. You should never count on that appreciation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Although some people do, some people make that a strategy.
Yeah, I mean, REITs that are investing at 3 caps in LA and San Francisco, and they're counting on that, just a place to park their money. And I don't know a lot about that world, but I know that anyone who's buying a 3 or 4 cap, it's pretty it's a different ballgame than I'm playing in.
Yeah. So back to the apartment investing. I think you said you have over 500 doors as a limited partner, which basically means you're a passive investor in those doors.
Yeah, and I love being a limited partner, a passive investor. I'm learning a lot through the investments. I've invested personally, and I've invested through my self-directed IRA now. And the people that I invest with typically are people that I know and trust and that have a track record and are willing to take my call if I have questions, although I'm a pretty easy investor. I don't really have a lot of questions at this point. I just have to kind of vet the people that I'm investing with. But I really enjoy that aspect. And I've told people in the past, in 10 years, I would love to just be sitting on a beach somewhere with my wife and kids and investing in other people's deals as a limited partner. That'd be great.
Tell me about the ones that you are active in, because I think you said there's 200 or so doors that you're more active in. Yeah.
So asset management and capital raise and investor relations in one. That was kind of my first stab at it. And honestly, that's something that I like. But now we have our own 506C going right now. It's 80 doors, and we have 71 pad mobile home park coming up right behind that, and we just submitted an LOI on a 200 pad park as well. So the first stab at GP was really just through kind of being known in the network, and I didn't even know that I had any kind of capability. I didn't know I had a network of people that were interested in investing in real estate until you start calling. And just saying, here's what I do. And I'm a firm believer. You have to let everybody know what you're doing, what you're passionate about, who you are. And I've said this so many times, like I want my gas station, the guy at the gas station should know that I'm a real estate investor, because you see him every, once a week or twice a week or whatever it is anyway. Everyone should know, and not in a cheesy, salesy way. It's just a conversation. And if you're good at it, and you can kind of work that into a general conversation, what do you do? And then they ask, what do you do? So ask somebody, if somebody's wondering how you can do that, ask people about themselves first. And generally speaking, they do the same. I mean, most of the time, right?
I'd like to take a moment to tell you about Green Property Management. Not only do they manage everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area, they also manage my entire portfolio. So I can tell you from personal experience that their unique flat fee management style is worth worth a closer look. If you feel that your property isn't operating to its fullest potential, then Green Property Management can help you take a holistic approach that will save you money, eliminate your headaches, and increase your net income. And if you're a property manager interested in applying Green Property Management's model, give them a call at 1-866-95-GREEN or visit them on the web at greenpropertymgt.com. So tell us what you say if you're talking to someone and you want to let them know that you invest in real estate. What do you typically say?
Basically, what I'll tell people is just like, oh yeah, I invest in real estate. So you'll start with just a kind of general thing, and if it's a casual conversation with somebody that you see not very often, that just telling them I'm a real estate investor is a good kind of warm and fuzzy kind of. If they're interested, they'll ask you a little bit more, right? Because you don't want to sit there and go, we pool investor money and we provide great returns and B and C class, and that's going to blow people away. They're going to be like, okay, this guy's, I don't even know what to say to him. So it just really depends on who you're talking to. But generally just kind of a warm introduction of, I invest in real estate, and, or we buy multifamily properties, and provide great returns to our investors. Something simple.
Right. Yeah, don't launch into the sales pitch.
No,
get them to ask you more questions.
That's conversation 5 is getting into how you do it, why you do it, terminology. You gotta date them first, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I want to get into the military discussion here. Make sure we're addressing our active duty and our veteran listeners. That's a very powerful loan, the VA loan. How is the military preparing or letting the service members know about this power that they have?
They aren't. And that is where active duty passive income, or ADPI, that's where we come in. Because when you're in the military, and we talk about this in the book, and everyone in the military knows this, when the only financial education you're given in the military is on the door right before a 3 or 4 day weekend, after or before a safety brief for the weekend, you get a 30-minute PowerPoint talking about the thrift savings plan, which is the military's version of like a 401k, right? And so it's not, and there's nothing wrong with this either. As I get into this, the military's role is not to educate you on finances. And there are people out there that say, well, we have certified financial specialists and they're out there training people. Yeah, but they're not training you on strategy. They're training people on, debt reduction or just how to invest in their retirement fund and things like that. So, where we come in is really our goal is to increase the financial awareness and just financial literacy of the military in general, because it's not something that's taught. People don't know about the power of the VA loan. They understand that there is a VA loan that might help them if they don't have cash to put down on a property, but it's so much more than that. But beyond that, there's multifamily investing. I mean, we're teaching people how to invest in multifamily as well. So obviously not through the VA loan, but there's so much more to what you can do. We also teach about just debt reduction and the difference between good debt and bad debt, which is also not taught, right? Helping people learn what their financial freedom number is. There's so much that you can do to increase the financial literacy of the military that's just not being done. And so now we step in. This is our passion. This is our mission. And the future is pretty amazing what we have going on. And we're seeing ourselves presenting at USO, at USO installations, and also at military installations, completely unbranded, all free type of stuff, just education, just getting the message out that people can have a better life. You don't have to spend 20 years breaking your knees and back in the military to come out on the other side with a $3,000 a month pension. That's great if that's what you want to do, but there's so many ways that you can invest and build wealth while you're serving. They're going to be much more lucrative than just your pension.
All right, I'd love to hear how you've had success getting this message to active duty members or veterans.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you kind of our outreach. We have a Facebook group, which is an amazing community of almost 5,000 active duty and veterans now. And every one of those 5,000, by the way, it's not an open, it's a closed Facebook group. So everyone is vetted to get in. But so there's outreach there. There's outreach with our podcast, and there's outreach on our website we have so much free content to help people just understand. We want those eyeballs to widen and go, whoa, there's a different thing out there for me. So through all of those things, what we're hearing is we have people sending us messages and emails saying, hey, I just bought my first house. I'm a young lieutenant. This just happened a couple months ago. A guy reached out to me, sent me an email and said, hey, I've been listening to your podcast and I read your book, and I just bought a house on Fort Benning or outside of Fort Benning, and I am renting out the other two rooms in this house to some of my other lieutenant buddies, and I am cash flowing $1,000 a month. Nice. So he's living for free and making money. And the guys who are living in the property are also receiving basic allowance for housing for them to pay their rent and stuff like that as well. So it's no skin off their back. They need a place to live, and this guy's making money. So he's paying down his principal, and he's going to go buy another one when he gets reassigned. That's one example, and so it's the inspiration. I mean, we have a private social network called Start the Spark, and that's really what it is. It's like we want to start that, just like that little tiny spark in people, and go, "Oh, there's something else." You know who does that better than nobody else is Robert Kiyosaki, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If anyone reads that book, they're like, "Whoa, this is amazing! I didn't know this existed." And that's kind of what we're doing for the military community. And in fact, we interviewed Robert Kiyosaki on our podcast, and
really?
He's a Vietnam vet, and it was an amazing.
Well, he talks about that. He flew helicopters.
He flew helicopters, and we talk the episode. Mike, our podcast host, is talking about. He and Robert are talking about crashing helicopters in Vietnam more than real estate. It's pretty neat episode.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when it comes to military members, whether they're active duty or veterans, what does the military instill in them that can be helpful in investing in real estate? And then the second part of that is, what does the military instill in them that can be an impediment to investing in real estate?
Discipline and conservatism, or risk tolerance. So the first answer is, and we're finding this on our own team, what we recognize is that people who do well in the military, and by do well, I mean just aren't troublemakers and, go through and get get their discharge paperwork and everything is fine. Veterans learned where to be, what time to be there, what attitude to bring, what uniform to wear, and that applies to business. That applies to real estate. That applies to anything you're trying to do. So if you're listening to this and you're a vet, or you're somebody who's thinking about hiring a vet or something, that is a major advantage, in that a veteran typically is somebody who understands rule following, understands like nobody else standard operating procedure and checklists. If you give a vet a checklist as an SOP, that's how it gets done every single time. So to us in our business, ADPI Capital and everything else that we're doing, we're creating these detailed checklists, and we don't skip over anything. So I'd say discipline is the answer to the first question. The second thing is, depending on, also you have to factor in left brain, right brain people, whether or not, risk tolerance is something that a lot of military members, this may lead into another good conversation here, but a lot of military members are not as risk tolerant as others, because they fear lack of control, right? When you get out of the military, where you've had control over most things, your training, you're executing, everything you're doing is kind of this forced regiment, and it's controlled. Well, when you get out and you're in the civilian world, all of a sudden you have options on everything. It's like, okay, well, now let's get all my eggs in one basket and hover over that basket, Mm-hmm. So I'd say that is the advantage and the disadvantage.
I was just having this conversation yesterday with someone, and we both agree there's a lot of ambiguity and uncertainty when it comes to any type of real estate investing. It's
Absolutely.
it never happens by the book, even though you should have your SOP, your standard operating procedure. It never happens by the book, and there's always things that are thrown at you from all directions and fires that you have to put out, and you never know if you're actually going to make it across the finish line.
Absolutely. And that, I look at that kind of, as long as you have the right education, the right experience, and just confidence in what you're doing, that can just be looked at as another interesting thing about real estate. Your attitude dictates a lot of the outcome of these things. I mean, we're going through this 506C right now, this 80 unit, and we had somebody come up and we were just planning on syndicating, and so we had somebody come up to us and say, well, what if I funded the entire thing myself? I just want to be the only investor. And so all of a sudden we're like, well, kind of stuttering, going, well, we're not ready for that. Internally, we're like, well, we hadn't thought of that. We didn't think you were going to come around, So, but that's what one thing I love about real estate is that it's always moving, it's always shifting. You always have to adjust fire and kind of figure out what's, keep your head on a swivel. Some of these terms we use in the military all the time, like situational awareness and keep your head on a swivel, that's what real estate is too. So it is very dynamic, and it's always interesting. My job, it was basically a W-2 in the military, right? My job in the military was always interesting in special operations. It was always different every single day, and I love that about it, and that is what gives me a great sense of feeling and accomplishment with real estate and with the teams that we're building and with the people that we're helping.
I want to talk about ADPI, active duty passive income. I'm curious why this is so important to you.
It all started with Mark Yansich, who's our CEO founder. He's a CH-53 pilot in the Marine Corps. Actually, he just reclassed to public affairs, but he was driving around and just thought to himself, there's got to be a better way. And that's kind of what, he's listening to podcasts. And he's kind of a computer science guy. So he started a website, the initial website and kind of just the name and the logo. And he's like, okay, well, I don't know where this is going to go. He wrote part of an ebook, and Military House Hacking, the initial part of the ebook. And then all of a sudden he started attracting, his team. And so, ADPI now is an amazing platform. It's an amazing way for us to reach out and start a spark in other military members. But here's what it's also doing, and maybe this is the transition to how we're giving back. But it's also giving service members a new target to seek out. One of the things that we lose when we leave the service is a new target. So when we're in, we have a mission, we have a purpose, we always have a task, we have camaraderie, we have wins, we have awards for those wins, and it's exciting. You get dopamine. I mean, you can go on and on and on, right? With what you get when you're in service. And yeah, someone listening to this is rolling their eyes right now because they're like, yeah, but it was hard and I had to stand in formation while the bugs were biting. And yeah, I get all that. But believe me, when you leave service, you miss all that stuff. You miss the camaraderie. You miss the teamwork. You miss your target. You miss your mission. And now you're in this civilian world where everyone is a complete that sounded bad because I paused there, but everyone is a complete variable. No one is predictable anymore. Nothing you do is predictable. You don't have any control. You don't have a team. You don't have purpose yet. But so we have something now in order to give back. It's called ADPI Helps, which is helping everyone live post-stress. It's a PTSD and addiction support outlet. Where we're offering, people to write in. They can write blogs as a therapeutic thing. I was in therapy for 3 years when I got out of the military, and I loved it. I didn't even think I had anything wrong. When I left, I thought, well, this is great. I'm out, and I had a great career, and it was fun, and I learned a lot, and I got a lot out of it. But I kept on seeing homeless veterans in San Francisco when I was doing my W-2 job. With signs. And I said, I bet you that guy didn't know that it was coming. I bet you that Vietnam veteran did not know that he was going to be homeless in 2019. And so I said, well, this is 2011, and I'm going, what if that's me? So how do I stop that? So I said, I'm just going to go to the VA and just check it out. Well, fast forward 3 years later, I had gone through cognitive processing therapy, prolonged exposure therapy. Survivor's guilt was something I didn't know I had. I was the burial detail, NCOIC, non-commissioned officer in charge for my unit. So whenever we lose somebody, I had to go to their hometown and go through that whole thing. But the next day was mission as usual, and you can't go see a behavioral health specialist because you could lose your security clearance and potentially lose your job. So there's a lot of people in special operations, there's a lot of people in the military in general with security clearances or otherwise that don't feel like they can go get help, or maybe don't feel like they need help. And I was in that case. I was that guy. So anyway, now we have, I mentioned blogs. Blogs are important to me. Writing is important to me as a therapeutic thing. The first time I wrote out my story and I had to read it back out to my psychiatrist, I wrote like 7 pages as an assignment. Here's what happened to me, and here's what happened to all my friends, and here are the guys I buried. I was bawling in that therapy session. And I was like, I don't cry. What's going on here? Something's up. So anyway, now we allow people to write either anonymously if they just want to vent and have it out there. And the importance of that is for them, it's cathartic, it's therapeutic, but it also allows other people to know that they're not alone. The people who read that, it impacts. It has it adds a huge value. The next thing we do is we have and all of this is free. We're never, ever, ever going to charge for any of this ADPI help stuff. We're not even taking donations. It's not even a nonprofit. So Zoom call. We have a monthly Zoom call that is free, and someone can come in anonymously and not even initiate their video, but it's just an accountability call where we talk, we BS, and it's just military members who have issues or don't and just kind of want to feel it out. We have a social worker in there who's a former Navy guy, Navy chief, and we're going to have guest speakers in there now. We have a private Voxer channel. Do you know what Voxer is?
I don't know.
Okay, so Voxer, for those of you out there who don't know what it is, it's kind of like WhatsApp, it's just like a walkie-talkie on your phone. It's an app that you can you tap to talk and communicate. Our team uses it quite a bit to communicate effectively without having to text message and stuff. So we have a private Voxer channel that we're in there communicating on a daily basis as well. And then we have an opt-in. People can sign a form, and it's a buddy check call list. So if someone needs somebody to talk to, we have a list of phone numbers where military veterans have volunteered. So yeah, if somebody needs to talk, they can call me. So this is just our way of kind of helping people get past that. I just lost another Night Stalker, another 160th guy 2 weeks ago. We just lost him to apparent suicide. So it's a constant thing. We're always losing guys. I had to disassociate myself with one of my friends who won't admit he's an alcoholic, and it's been a struggle for him with PTSD and alcoholism for 10 years, and I've been helping him as much as I can. But unfortunately, it's not just me that's experiencing this. It's you. If you're listening to this, it's you. Your veteran friend who saw combat or didn't and is trying now to figure out a way to feel again. That's why they get arrested. That's why they're into drugs and alcohol. That's why they seem depressed. That's why they can't seem to get their life together. That's why they seem to be pushing their family away, or they have had 1 or 2 divorces. So those are signs. If your audience is listening to this and they have people that have any of those signs of this, just ask them to connect with us. And we're not the end all be all, but our mission is to save one life as many times as we can.
Do you have any other message for our listeners, when it comes to post-stress and addiction, other things that we should know about?
Yeah, I mean, it's a relatively unrecognizable thing. And people tend to want to mask it with alcohol or thrill seeking or drugs, because when they were in the military, they wanted that dopamine. They had that dopamine hit through all the things I explained earlier, right? But when you get out, you lose all of that. And inherently, your mind is like, where is it? It's gone. I need that again. What do I do? So they hit the bottle for a little bit of thrill. They go out and, do donuts and get arrested, or what? I don't know. They get in a bar fight and get arrested, or if that type of activity is extremely common. If that's something you see your veteran friends doing, they're not alone. That is just someone trying to figure out how they fit into society in the civilian world now. They fit in perfectly in the military, and now they don't have a target, they don't have a purpose, they don't have a mission, they don't have a camaraderie, a team. They see people who are complete variables and unpredictable around them all the time, and that's a scary thing. And so the only thing you can do is sit on your couch and drink, which is obviously the opposite of what you should be doing. You probably be more helpful to exercise, but that's not what people do. They go and hit the bottle or get into trouble for that dopamine hit. So what we're doing is not only just helping as an outlet, but to me, real estate may have saved my life. I think I talked about this in the boardroom.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, is real estate kind of what has been your solution to finding that dopamine hit?
As cheesy and as weird as that may sound, it's not about real estate. Real estate is the vehicle that it found me, but it's dynamic. I get to help people every day because of the ADPI community. I'm always being pushed. There's always more to learn. There's always more people to meet. So because of all those moving parts, and because I'm building these teams, and now teams of veterans who have similar experience as me, man, it is absolutely. I can't imagine where I would be right now. I might be in a just really bad place if I didn't have real estate. So wow. We're hoping to give people, and we're hoping to give people a new target as well with real estate or with online side hustles, or the military spouse community can certainly get involved with us and all that stuff too. And as I said in the boardroom too, and it gets me choked up when I say, but on the first Zoom call that we had one of our members, Russ, say. He said that ADPI Helps has saved his life. And that was our mission statement: save one life as many times as possible, right? Save one life. So that was an amazing thing for us to hear. And now we've got to do it as many times as we can.
Yeah, that's so important. Would you break it down for our listeners? You've talked about ADPI in your podcast. Break it down one more time. Like, what are you offering, and where can they go to find these things?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So let me tell you, I'll start off by all of the free things that we offer. Okay. So low barrier to entry, free stuff. We have our book, Military House Hacking. You can go to our website, activedutypassiveincome.com. It's free, the e-version. It's also on Amazon if people like hard copies. The VA Loan Mastery course is free. That is, if you want to learn how to house hack and use the VA loan strategy, you can. It's free on our website. We have a REI cash flow. It's in quotes. If you typed in REI cash flow on iTunes, we have an app that will show people. It's a pretty cool app. It'll show people how their cash flow would go. As it's basically a toggle that you can slide up. It walks you through the whole process. So the cash flow calculator. We have the free podcast. Obviously, we have a book or an ebook, a blueprint to financial success. We have the Facebook group, which is closed and vetted. We have webinars on our website and on our Facebook page. We have ADPI Helps. We have free tax strategy calls. So the list goes on and on and on as far as the free stuff goes. Then if people want to get really involved in real estate is for them, we have a single family and multifamily education platform. We have coaching and mentoring. We have now an agent for real estate agents. They have to be military affiliated at this point, either veteran or active duty. We are sending warm, qualified leads to veteran real estate agents across the country, and we have dozens at this point already, and we hope to be, have a couple hundred across the country. So that's a pretty neat thing. And those agents are now being trained to present our military house hacking seminar, which we're already giving across the country as well, which is free to anyone in the communities, just to give them the VA loan and kind of military house hacking overview. By the time your listeners will have listened to this, we will have just been recently at the Military Influencer Conference in Washington, D.C., where we're running the passive income track. And then, of course, ADPI Capital. We're buying multifamily assets of our own as well. Another thing in the future that's coming up in about a month. Actually, we're currently processing loans. We have our own mortgage branch. So ADPI Mortgage was born. And then whole life and term life insurance company is coming up as well. So we're kind of looking at ADPI as a holistic way of real estate investing, kind of a one-stop shop for people to come, and they know that we have their best interest in mind, from retail sales to multifamily to single family to investment strategies, and kind of all under one roof.
Wow, that is a lot.
Yeah. But I'll say this: it's because we have built this amazing community. Experts are coming to us and offering this kind of thing to us, and that's what your listeners can do too. Once you start building teams and building a community, I mean, like Gary Vee and a bunch of other people talk about, build a community first. Products can come later. Right. And that's what happened with us. The active duty passive income community is amazing. And we all kind of inherently know each other through what we've been through. And now we have professionals, industry experts coming to us and saying, I can build you out a mortgage company. We can build a network of real estate agents across the country. And so, partnerships build, and every one of your listeners will see that if you network and you take a firm stance on building a great community.
So, Eric, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you for your service to our country and your service to other military veterans and active duty personnel. Learning about the VA loan, I think that's a key start to investing in real estate for military veterans. Just everything you had to say was really powerful. So thank you so much for sharing your story and your information.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate this, and I can't wait to hang out with you next time I see you across the boardroom.
Oh, me too. I'm looking forward to it. I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode. I'm your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group, and you can find out more about me by going to higinvestor.com. That's higinvestor.com. And you can also ask questions and join us on Facebook by going to RPOA, Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast. This episode was sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.